The United States has proposed a new 12.5% tariff on South African imports. It's not as some form of revenge. It's not like Trump throwing a tantrum. This is what I call a formal finding by the Office of the United States Trade Representative that South Africa has actually, yes, you guessed it, we have failed to enforce a prohibition on goods made with forced labor. This is the same South Africa that has BEE legislation that the United States Trade Representative specifically flagged. It's one of the main reasons why we have tariffs. We've got something that only benefits the black elites around here. This is the same South Africa that still has the Expropriation Act on the table and have done nothing with it, right? This is the same South Africa that sent a 70-year-old man named Roelf Meyer to Washington who has nothing to do with this. They sent him there to negotiate, and then he came back home, and then nothing changed. The tariff has been proposed now. The hearings begin, and every South African is at the till in every shop, and now they are going to feel it because everybody is still buying their groceries. This is the first week of the new month of June. Everyone is waiting till the weekend, and now was waiting till the weekend. Now it is the weekend, and now they're going to buy their groceries, and then they realized, wait, that minus sign on my banking app is a lot bigger than usual. The anti-immigration protests are spreading as well. Emalahleni, Ekurhuleni, Cloverdene, Lady Smith. Yes, that Lady Smith, where the band Black Mambazo comes from. The numbers are growing. The anger is growing. And in Mossel Bay, I told you this already last weekend, 5 Mozambicans were killed. People were burned alive in shacks. And now the question I keep asking is still the same. Why on earth are you burning shacks instead of demanding the arrest of the Home Affairs officials who sold the borders for 500 Rand via WhatsApp to these illegal immigrants? And then some actual good news. The suspects in the Kruger National Park murder of Dina and Ernst Maree have been caught. In Mozambique, 2 men aged 32 and 33 arrested through a cross-border operation involving the South African Police Service, Mozambican Law Enforcement, SAN Parks, and the Wildlife Justice Commission. They have reportedly confessed with enough interrogation, and now they're in the process of extradition. And someone is bombing Woolworths. 2 stores, Pretoria and Bloemfontein. Within 24 hours, 2 Woolworths stores were bombed between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. while the stores are closed. So no casualties. The Hawks are investigating who did this. Experts say extortion. Police say it's too early to call it terrorism. Before we get into it, this juicy bits of the Boerewors I have for you today, just know that thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Just wanted to welcome you back to another episode of the best South African news coverage in the country. You've got unbiased news here and unfiltered takes. And because of that, you know that we don't get sponsors because we are too uncomfortable, right? We make them uncomfortable. You know why. So if you appreciate this channel, if you appreciate this movement of free speech, there is a link in the description below where you can buy me a coffee. Love you all. Thanks for watching. Now let's get into the juicy part of the Boerewors. You know when you're braaiing and then you poke the wors with the fork and then all that juicy stuff comes out. Now we're getting into that. Tariffs for South Africa. This time it's not just Trump being angry. It's now formal. I need to explain to you what is different about this specific tariff announcement because no one is telling you this at all. You see, South Africans have been following this Trump versus South Africa beef and the tariff stuff for over a year, and it is very easy to get news fatigue about it. You get tired of hearing it because every few weeks, ooh, another tariff threat, some other influencers telling you about it. Ooh, another announcement, another percentage, another crisis. Or maybe a YouTuber is just clickbaiting you because they want you to watch their video. But this one is structurally different, and you need to understand why. You see, on the 3rd of June, 2026, the Office of the United States Trade Representative, the USTR, led by Ambassador Jamieson Greer, published a Section 301 report of the U.S. Trade Act of 1974, which is the most powerful, or one of the most powerful trade law instruments America has in its arsenal. It allows the USTR to investigate foreign trade practices and recommend tariffs as a remedy to solve this. It was used against China. It was used against the European Union. So it's not something Trump invented like what the liberals want you to believe. This is a formal legal finding with a formal legal process that even some of the liberals' favorite presidents used to apply to other countries. So the finding of this was that 60 countries, including South Africa, have failed to enforce bans on goods made with forced labor. The proposed tariff, because of that, 12.5%. Now, here is the context that makes this specifically devastating for South Africa, specifically being one of those countries. The existing temporary 10% tariff on South Africa expires on July 24th this year. That's 6 weeks from now, around about 6 weeks. You're leaving out the pala couch, you're leaving out the political drama, you're leaving out ANC corruption, you're scratching out Roelf Meyer's shuttle diplomacy. It's just temporary tariff expires. And it was supposed to be replaced with something better, a negotiated outcome. That's why they sent Roelf Meyer and he failed miserably. A trade relationship that protects South African exports, that protects the integrity of South African business. Instead, now that old tariff expiring is being replaced with a 12.5% tariff. So things are getting even worse. Things will get even more expensive, even though we just sent an ambassador to the US. Roelf Meyer went to Washington, in case you didn't know. He is an extraordinary negotiator. In case you didn't know, he helped build South Africa's constitution from nothing. He brokered peace in Rwanda, in Northern Ireland, Kosovo. He is one of the best negotiators I've heard of. Maybe you wouldn't agree, because maybe you know more about him than I do. I'm not perfect. But he's not the best person we could have sent. You see, the USTR published a Section 301 report proposing higher tariffs than what currently exists. And the reason for this, the reason why they sent the old tariffs was because of BEE, land expropriation, and discrimination against racial minorities. Those are the three main reasons. So what does South Africa do? South Africa obviously has no intentions of abolishing any of these race-based laws or land expropriation. Instead, they send Roelf Meyer as if that would help at all. You could have told a second grader this, they wouldn't have agreed. That's why the exact conditions remain in place. A lot of people think the US just doesn't like us. That's not true. Nothing changed because we don't want anything to change. We don't want to change. In fact, things are getting worse because we don't want to change. Why? Because the Section 301 report is not about diplomatic relationships or personality clashes or Trump's personal feelings about white farmers. No. This is about specific documented South African trade practices that the USTR finds objectionable. BEE legislation is specifically mentioned as a race-based policy that creates trade distortions. The Expropriation Act is in the background, and that refusal to adopt forced labor prohibition, which the US has had since about 1930. Ambassador Greer said it explicitly. The failure of our most important trading partners to address the importation of goods made with forced labor is absolutely unacceptable. He said this creates a dynamic where American workers are forced to compete globally on an unlevel playing field, right? That's what he said. South Africa is being placed in the same category as China and India basically on this issue. Not the European Union and UK, who got 10% for having partial bans. South Africa has 12.5%. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same as China. Now, the proposal is still subject to public comments and hearings. Interested parties can submit written comments, right? Free speech, everybody has a say. So the deadline for requesting to appear at hearings is the 22nd of June, 2026. That's just about 17 days away. South Africa's trade body, its government, and its business community need to be submitting testimony right now. But because we are South Africans, we're going to do everything last minute. And in case you don't know, here's what 12.5% tariffs actually means for me and you as ordinary tax-paying South Africans. South Africa exports approximately $6 billion worth of goods to the United States every single year. I'm talking cars, wine, citrus, platinum group metals, which are exempted from the proposed tariff, meaning the mining sector gets a reprieve, but everything else, the agricultural products, the processed goods, the manufactured products, yeah, they are not so safe. They face 12.5% tariffs. Everything's going to get more expensive again. So for comparison, the existing 10% tariff that hit South African automotive exports to the US caused an 82.2% collapse in those exports. That's terrible. A 12.5% tariff on a broader range of goods will have cascading effects if that's what happened with just 10%, not just on exporters, on the rand, on the prices of imported goods that South Africa buys with rands, on the fuel price, on the food price, on the cost of everything at that till. And before we talk about the existing damage, we have already told you about the Joburg crisis, remember? 25 billion rand in creditor debt, 3.9 billion rand in cash, Eskom arrears threatening to cut the lights, a clandestine 3 billion rand emergency loan for salaries, a secret German loan that they don't want to tell us about for some reason, and an illegal 10 billion rand wage deal. A 12.5% tariff on South African exports to the United States hits a city like Joburg and a country that is already financially on its knees. We are doomed.